Okay, we are back with another edition of the Friday FARcast. Ooh, excuse me. I am Robert Phoenix, your host for today, your navigator on the Friday FARcast, and this is the day where we get to talk with other people. And today's guest is our good friend Masaki Miyagawa, doing us a real solid because we were talking about doing the show, and he thought it was on Sunday, and I thought it was today, and he managed to uh, put together some reasonable talking points so that we could get a jump on it and talk about it today on Friday with you all. So before we bring him on, let me do a few announcements. The first announcement that I have, of course, is for our friends over at Silver Botanicals, and you can see their page there. And there's Masaki in the corner. Anyway, Silver Botanicals, uh, it's along with uh, True Hemp Science, one of the sponsors of the show. And we have been talking about their gifts from the Magi bundle, which is available for $79.94, the centerpiece of which is the gift of the Magi personal spray using biblical ingredients, everything that's talked about in terms of herbs or essential oils that blend together in a synergistic formula are in this little bottle, including monoatomic gold. So the space, your personal space, becomes a sacred space. You have all these other wonderful additions to that spray in the middle, including the oral tongue care, the silver tongue oral tongue care. Really, really, really good stuff. You've got the total body skin therapy bath edition. That's two applications, two baths. These are phenomenal baths. It leaves your skin with a light sheen of nano silver. It's like a protection, like a layer of protection. Um, so there's all kinds of just great products there, and it's only $79.94, and you get free shipping. I mean, shipping on this would cost you anywhere between $10 to $15. So take advantage of it. It's a local business, Main Street business run by two dudes that are knocking it out of the park with products that are holistic and good for you and good for your personal environment, good for our economy. A gift from the Magi bundle, and this sale will go on until December 31st. Okay. Thank you for that. And I have a big announcement about my website, and I'll share that at the end of the program after we spend some time with Masaki Miyagawa. What's going on, Masaki?
Hey, Robert. Even as you're talking, I'm furiously putting links together.
You're always one of the most prepared guests. Everybody comments on that, and there's a reason for that. And, it's because you care. You have attention to detail. I mean, that was part of your stock and trade when you were doing your organ products. They were impeccable. So your research impeccability is in the same ballpark. So, I mean, I can talk more if you need some your furious thinking time.
No, I'm done.
Okay, good. All right. So here we go. There's a lot happening in the world, uh, and it's happening on layers that people may not be fully aware of. One of the things that's going on, of course, is this ongoing conflict with Venezuela, which seems to be starting to boil. Somebody sent me some footage of the Venezuelan Navy starting to patrol the waters outside of Venezuela. And there's a big China connection, which we're going to spend a lot of time with here today, with Venezuela. Also, the which seems to be a simmering proxy war between Thailand and Cambodia, and we can get into more of that as well and how it might also connect up to what's happening in Venezuela. There's China, which is looming in the background. And Masaki's going to talk about somebody by the name of Alan Yu, who is a very important figure in all of this. And we might even touch on the silver rush as well, time permitting. So why don't we, where do you want to start, Masaki, given that I've just kind of laid out our roadmap here?
Why don't we talk about the proxy wars first?
Okay. All right.
Venezuela, Trump's reasoning or his excuse for going in is the drug cartels.
Right.
There's no significant drug cartels in Venezuela. However, they do have the largest oil reserves in the world. And there's something called the Monroe Doctrine, where everything in the Americas is in America's sphere of influence, the United States of America.
Yeah.
So that was kind of thrown out the window in the last couple decades, where we even I think, was it Jimmy Carter? He gave up the rights to Panama Canal.
He did. Jimmy Carter was a terrible president. And he did. That's exactly what he did.
So, and we, first of all, we had perpetual rights to the Panama Canal.
Yep.
I mean, the significance of these transit waterways cannot be underestimated, because besides all the religious
connotations,
connotations of why Israel is involved in all these conflicts, they're there because of the key position of there's a Sinai, and they want to build I think it's called the Ben Gurion Canal.
The Ben Gurion Canal, which cuts right through Gaza, so they can circumnavigate the Suez Canal. Because Egypt makes a shit ton of money. You have to pay tribute to go through the Suez Canal. And I mean, it is, a waterway, a thoroughfare for oil tankers and shipping. So Israel doesn't want to do that. Israel wants the action. Israel wants to create another route actually through Israel with locks all the way, from the Gulf of Arabia up through Israel and out Haifa, and then be able to move things through that area, completely circumnavigate Egypt. So, yeah, I mean, that's been part of the plan. And I guess you'd have a lot of mixed use living around the waterway, thanks to Jared Kushner and his re-urbanification of that area. So, yeah, that's the plan.
So, this is dirty politics. Latin America, they had reigns of terror because we helped install dictatorships, and the CIA used to send operatives dressed like Catholic priests, and they were doing a lot of stuff. Now it's more of the evangelical. The born again Christian movement is probably at least half of Christians in Latin America now, so it's changed a lot. But these are all proxy wars,
Yeah, like Bolsonaro, who would normally be a Catholic, is a born again Christian, right?
Yeah, and well, let me put it to you this way: in Latin America, there's no middle. You have militant armed communism and hardline fascism. so
well, but don't you think? But don't you think though that there was like a Cold War going on in South America, because you had a lot of these socialist,
definitely,
and communist, kind of uprisings that were taking place.
So Both sides are pretty extreme, but it's well, that was during the Cold War.
It was, and you
So
could see it get played out. And even like I saw this documentary on the tropicalismo movement of Brazil, and how at one point people like Caetano Veloso and George Ben, they weren't full on socialists or communists, but they were also kind of anti-fascist, which Brazil at that time was heavily ruled by the military. And then so they became kind of the people's heroes because they were speaking out against this kind of dictatorial military stance and didn't like their music. And then there's this offshoot of that movement, which is way more hardcore socialist. And they started to spurn like Veloso and George Ben, even though they spent time in prison. So it started to get very hardcore on the socialist communist side of things in South America. And you can tell me whether or not this is just theater, but the West had a vested interest in not having a bunch of Cubas show up, even though clearly there was some CIA involvement in the installation of Castro. But that's another part of the story.
Well, Venezuela was basically their government was helped by Cuba, you could say, installed. So Cuba is a lot more significant than people realize because it's a small islands or relatively small compared to like America or Brazil or Venezuela. But to my understanding, they have a lot of it's like a command center. So they have a lot of high level operatives that train other countries. But Trump going in there, it's not about drugs. It's about sort of reinstating the Monroe Doctrine. Like the Americas is our sphere of influence. And it's a war against China, just like the tariffs isn't about trade or getting fair deals. It was specifically to damage China. So what he told the public really wasn't the truth. And for some reason, a lot of the Trumpers said, oh, we don't pay the tariffs. The other countries pay the tariff. That is completely untrue because the cost
is passed on to us.
Is passed on to us. So a major part of China's oil supply, I think it's around 30%, comes from Venezuela. So that would be another reason.
Let me ask you a question. How fully operational is the Venezuela output? Because it went down for a long time. And getting that operation up and running again was pretty significant. So at what capacity do you think Venezuela is actually operating at?
I don't know. Probably not at peak efficiency. But
it is not at peak efficiency.
But I could tell you for sure there are dozens of American corporations that are jockeying for position to get in there and run it as our operations. And, we're not going to get a cut, but these mega corporations and the political elite are going to divide up Venezuela. So you're talking about spheres of influence. That's why Taiwan is a big issue. It's not just political, but in a lot of ways, China is in the position of Japan before the Second World War, because Japan was getting cut off from resources like oil,
and their bank accounts were frozen too
by other powers.
Yeah.
So China is completely at the mercy of other countries because to go up by Sakhalin, like Siberia, that's Japan and Russia's territory. Then Japan blocks the whole coast, and then if you go more south, then there's island chains in Taiwan. So taking Taiwan is the first step to making a free passage for a trade. And this is all blocking out spheres of influence. In China, historically, they were never excellent warriors. Like, they did military campaigns, they took territories, but typically a lot of it was defensive. They were always getting their ass handed to them by the nomadic peoples like Mongolians, because Chinese are primarily merchant and farming culture. They're not like a warrior culture, right? So you carry down to today, a lot of their operations are through, I guess it's hybrid war or 4D war, where they're operating through drug networks. Like, they work with the Mexican cartels with the fentanyl,
Right.
and the it's sort of like a reverse opium war.
Yeah.
And you can see this in countries like Thailand, where the marijuana was legalized. I'm pretty sure, I've never read any articles about this, but I'm pretty sure that China, if they didn't help push that through, they were very happy that Thailand legalized marijuana, because even though it's just weed, it's pushing the Thai culture towards sort of like just being stoned and chilling out and not really worrying about the massive amounts of Chinese that have moved into Thailand. It's things like this. They're tweaking things. I'm sure they're funding the Antifa in some way. Although they might not be the only people that are funding them. They're happy to cause more chaos. All kinds of these ways that are not overtly political. So in Latin America, I think you know that they've spent massive amounts of money. Every year I went to Brazil, and I went for like 15 years straight. I haven't been back since COVID. Every year there were more and more Chinese. And so I would mainly go to Sao Paulo, which is the financial capital of Brazil.
Yeah.
It's like all the telecoms and banks are there. It's the major economic center for all of South America, Sao Paulo, Brazil. Of course, you're going to see Chinese there, but I would go to the second and third tier cities, and you would see Chinese there.
Wow.
So, and
that's not uncommon. I've watched guys that do these travel vlogs, and they're in really remote areas, and they'll run into Chinese. Like, there was this one guy, he's English, he's in Eritrea, and he runs into the Chinese in Eritrea. Like, what are you guys doing here? Right.
Well, if you asked the Chinese, especially if they've been in Brazil or other countries, what do you think about China? It's not unusual to hear them say they don't want to go back, that they like it better. Even in Africa, there's
or Eritrea looked pretty good to me. It seemed pretty safe, and
I mean, the thing that you have to consider is, that Chinese people, just like the Jewish community, they're extremely good business people.
Right.
And if you're in China, you got to compete against a billion other Chinese. So, and with the eye of Big Brother above you, right? So
they share that, like, DNA of the merchant class, right?
Yeah, and there may be a reason for that, because China was connected to Central Asia and the Middle East
Yeah.
for like 1,000 years. It's called the Silk Road.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of traders that went into China,
Right.
and that may have rubbed off on them. I don't know, but something to consider. So in Latin America, they're doing all sorts of investment deals, commerce. But this is the thing with that hybrid war thing, right? I mean, there was a Chinese general that wrote a paper that basically said it's full spectrum. That they want to do all out war. So anything cultural, there's no such thing as underhanded tricks. They're going to do everything. So if you hear, oh, China's not aggressive, they just want to do trade. You better look at that again. Basically, China is an emerging empire, and they will act as every empire does. So look at America. Look at the British Empire.
Right.
So
Right.
so they're doing things like they'll point to DNA studies. Let's say, especially like in Mexico, right? A lot of Latin people have Asiatic DNA because supposedly there was the land bridge with Siberia, and Asiatics came in, and that ends up being like the Plains Indians, right? They have Asiatic DNA.
Yeah.
So China says, "Oh, our long lost brothers. See, you're actually Chinese." So, see, they're building the ideological foundation for further takeover. And they've built a lot of like libraries and public works. They're helping to do like I believe in El Salvador, Bukele, President Bukele,
Mm-hmm.
he opened up a library, and that was funded by China.
Yeah, China has been deeply invested in the digitization of Venezuela with ID cards, biometrics, essentially creating their social UBI, creating their universal benefits system, right? So they've been in bed with Venezuela for going on 5 to 6 years now in that regard. So they're deeply invested in Venezuela, and Venezuela is deeply invested in them because of the technology. And then you have the oil on top of it, and Venezuela being an important part, theoretically, if they ever get it together, their master plan for, the new Silk Road, right? Their global trading route. So yeah, I mean, it is definitely a hot point. Why? I maybe this question is self-evident on the surface, but why didn't the Biden administration have a more aggressive stance with Venezuela and China? And then maybe it just answers itself on the surface. But what do you think? Because they know all this stuff. Do you think that they're in bed with China?
Well, everybody's bought out.
Yeah.
Like Trump's bought out by that little country over there in the Middle East. But it would seem to me like the Democratic Party is, like, since the Clinton days, they're heavily bought out by China.
China, yeah. So they're not going to provide much of a speed bump.
Yeah, and well, Biden also had in Ukraine, Hunter Biden was it Burisma? He's all involved in that, and Russia's connected to China, so that might have had an influence. But talking about the takeover, like basically all the countries on mainland Asia, they're right next door to China. They're all heavily infiltrated by China. I mean, if we're heavily infiltrated, if England is heavily infiltrated, by the way, they're about to build the largest Chinese embassy in the world in London.
Wow.
So, if the Western countries are infiltrated, then if you're right, if you could go by land into China, right, they're right next door, it's going to be heavily infiltrated. So, South Korea, which is basically a U.S. proxy state, the president was flipped to a pro-China president not so long ago. And there's a lot of protests in South Korea because people don't like it. Although it's not good for these other countries to be beholden to the United States. But they also don't want to be under China. That's the one saving grace, if you're an American, is that we'd be totally done for if China, we wouldn't even have a chance. But China has a lot of internal problems themselves. So it's not like they run the board, but even Trump's tariffs, it's like a last Hail Mary to try to prevent the tipping of the balance of power. In Japan, we did a whole show on Japan, right?
Yeah.
Did you know that Japan doesn't have anti-espionage law? So you can spy all you want, and it's not illegal. There are naturalized there's Chinese that have full residency and citizenship, and when you do that, you have to pick a Japanese name. So they have Japanese names, but in fact, they're born, educated in China. They're Chinese, and they go to Japan, and then they take Japanese names, and they're running for office in Japan.
Wow.
And
shapeshifters.
The leftist party. See, there's a difference between America and countries that are close to China, because Japan is like right across there. It's like a strait, right? It's very close to China. The leftist parties in Japan, they're taking orders directly from China. They're like, say that, right?
Right.
And we talked about the other things that China's doing, like selling or pushing the SDG green sustainability goals in Japan and selling them massive amounts of solar panels, which is it totally ruins the environment, right?
Yeah,
they
totally.
can't be recycled, and they get the money from it. And China, they're doing a pincer move from the north and the south of Japan. Hokkaido, where like Sapporo and Hokkaido, where the it's sparsely populated. It's almost like Sakhalin or Siberia. It's in the summertime you can farm, but in the wintertime, I mean, you have like 20-foot snow drifts. They're buying up all the ski resorts, like Niseko, which is like an Aspen. It's like 25-30% Chinese owned. And because it's sparsely populated, they can start taking over the north and the south, especially Okinawa, right? A lot of people don't know that Okinawa is only an hour by plane to Taiwan. So this is a critical. I mean, during the war, America took over Okinawa, and then that was basically it. They dropped the bombs, but that was the last battle between the Americans and Japanese, Okinawa. So they're telling the Okinawans, you're not really Japanese, you're really Chinese. And they're saying openly now, Japan's ownership of Okinawa, we're disputing that. People should question. Why? Because if you can, just like in World War II, if you can take Okinawa, it's the easy launch pad to get into Japan. So A similar thing is happening in many countries. Now, recently, there's been this Thai-Cambodia border dispute, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
One reason for it, I heard, is there's some rare earth minerals under there's a temple on the border that they're fighting over. That could be one reason. But another reason is, even though Thailand is heavily infiltrated, and a lot of the Thais are actually Chinese, uh, that have been there for generations. But the Thai king, he made a law that you had to change your name to Thai. So typically, if you see light-skinned Thais, they're actually Chinese Thais. The real Thais look more like Cambodians. They're dark.
Right.
But they have an arrangement where uh, the Thai Chinese kind of run the economy, and then the government and military is supposed to be Thais, the real Thais. But once you have money, you can do a lot of things. So supposedly, the Thais maintain control of the government, but the truth is somewhere in between. But in Cambodia, they have, well, first of all, Cambodia is much poorer than Thailand.
Right.
So they partnered up with these Chinese mafias to run scam centers, like call centers and casinos.
Right.
But you know that the Chinese mafias, at some level, they're connected to the CCP. So they're not just independent agents. In fact, I heard that Xi Jinping, the president of China, that he's using these illicit gambling and scam centers to launder money for his own family and get money out of the country.
Yeah. I know this is kind of a little far afield, but it's not too far afield. But Miriam Adelson, who is Trump's biggest supporter, her gambling operations are in Macau, which is run by the Chinese, right? Like that's where she has massive casino interests there. And I just think it's really weird that this hardcore Zionist supporter, she may as well be the first lady. She just gave Trump $250 million. I don't know if you saw that or not. But she's getting, even though her corporation group is located in Las Vegas, they make their money in Indonesia and primarily Macau. So we have Chinese money coming through the Adelsons to fund Zionist interests in the United States, or at least partially Chinese money, because there are, obviously people go to Macau internationally to gamble. But that's really interesting. I've heard, this is from my source who has really good sources, that there are American operators on the Cambodian side of the conflict. Like,
really?
Yes, that there are American operators on the Cambodian side, and that we're kind of wading into a Vietnam-like situation there. And clearly, if to your point, if you think that there's a lot of Chinese investment and Chinese influence in Thailand, it would make sense that this would be another kind of, poking the bear, or in this case, poking the dragon. So
there's heavy Chinese investment all through Southeast Asia.
Yeah.
But the Thais were training with American forces right before they stripped Cambodia.
Yeah, I've heard that there's. So who knows? My source said there's a bunch of American operators on the Cambodian side. Now maybe you've got divergent groups in America, which is quite probable. You could have, private mercenary groups that are on the Cambodian side that are being hired out, and you could have uh, INGSOC or whatever, Delta Force on the Thai side. It doesn't mean that they have to be mutually exclusive, and because everything is pretty corporate now, don't you think? It's like
Oh,
we have.
I think every nation, every country's in political turmoil, but if the governments collapse, who's still around? It's the corporations, right?
I think it's the corporate. I think the flag is like a thin veneer for the corporations that are running these countries and trying to extract their resources. So if you have, you could have, Xi, or, which would be formerly Blackwater, being rented out by one side, and then you could have another group being rented out by the other side. And I think it's completely possible and plausible.
Well, China is involved in the Ukraine war, and supposedly they're allies with Russia, right? But they're selling drones and weapons to both sides.
Right.
And
Right. Yeah. Right. I mean, that's a page out of the Rothschild book. It's been very successful.
And since the 50s, definitely by the 60s, China and Russia were not on good terms, right? Right now,
huge falling out after the death of Stalin.
So right now, they're allies on paper, but I think China, they're helping to bleed Russia dry, and they have free license to start to operate in the far east of Russia. Like there's, most of Russia is actually around Moscow, St. Petersburg. The country's huge. It spans multiple time zones.
13 time zones.
So it's very sparsely populated. There's only about I heard there's only about 50,000 troops in the Far East.
And China has really moved into Siberia.
And Russia knows this.
Yes.
So see, one of the things that's delayed the growth of the BRICS, is Brazil, Russia, India, and China, is that nobody trusts China.
Well, this is what I was going to bring this up, because between Russia and China, it would be a mutual mistrust society, because at the core, right, Russia knows, particularly from its days as being a world power of the Soviet Union, that they're capable of anything, right? They're capable of anything. That, under Stalin and Khrushchev and, Brezhnev and Dropov, they were capable of anything. You had the KGB running operations, be like the Mossad running the government of Israel, and maybe they do. But in that political scenario, everything was on the table. Subterfuge, everything. And they knew, because of that the Chinese were capable of the same thing, right? Because they both kind of fall out of the same model, although they, have a bit of a fork in the road. So it's a mutual mistrust society between the two of them.
So China has a lot of problems internally. They have the population problem, right? Because they had the one-child policy. So their population of young workers basically is aging out. So they will never recapture that in our lifetime.
Yeah.
They had the housing bubble. So Chinese typically invest in real estate, not
because it's the only thing they can really invest in.
So That's collapsed now,
Yeah.
and some places it's like 50-70% depreciated. So basically, the last 2 decades plus of economic growth, it was totally wiped out. People's savings are gone.
Yeah.
And Trump's tariffs, they did work. I think what we're seeing is decoupling in the end of globalism. So China's like the economic model is an export model.
Yeah.
Well, they're still exporting because they're the factory of the world, and like we said, they're in Africa, they're in Latin America, they're trading with the whole world, but America is the number one market.
Right.
If they could break a product in America, then you know it's going to be good everywhere else. So what I've heard is investment in the coastal cities like Shanghai, Xiamen,
Yeah.
and like Guangdong, which is basically across from Hong Kong. They're stopping. Basically, the wealthiest cities in China, they're all along the coast because those were the trading ports. They're investing heavily in the interior, Sichuan and Chongqing. If you've seen like the city it has these weird, you could seemingly be walking on street level, but then you look over the side and there's a huge drop. They have it's real interesting. Go look up Chongqing on YouTube. I heard they're building like 1,000-foot deep underground military bases, and it's right next. Sichuan is right next to Tibet. It's pretty far inland. This is reminiscent of World War II. You know, the Chiang Kai-shek's government, they moved several times to like Nanjing. I think they were in Chongqing because they lost Beijing and Shanghai, and they had to move to the interior. And then the CCP they did a long march where they were hiding out
Right.
in the interior.
Right.
It tells me that they're getting ready for war.
Mm-hmm.
But it also tells me that, I mean, it's economic suicide. And I think with the loss of jobs, and now the big cities like Shanghai is like the jewel of China. It's like a New York.
Right.
They're basically broke because the people are broke.
Mm-hmm.
They gave out vouchers, or they had payments for pregnant women, and now they're asking for the money back after it's been spent.
Oh my
So
God.
you know they're broke.
Wow.
So I think it's very possible that we could see the CCP have major problems as soon as next year. You know, and the situation with China is Xi Jinping. He basically, well, one of his idols is Hitler. He's basically like a Stalin figure, where he eliminated all of his opposition in key positions all throughout the government, and he put his own cronies in.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much damage done, because basically the China you see today, it started around say like 2015. It was way more open to foreigners and less hardline, but he, I guess, explicitly went towards a Mao style government. Mao Zedong, you know, he had the Red Book.
Yeah.
Xi Jinping has his own book, right? So he went towards like a strongman.
It's so ironic because Xi Jinping's father went through the struggle sessions, and
Well,
and back in the day, his father was a professor, right? And his father was rounded up by Mao and went through struggle sessions. And I'm not sure if Xi Jinping directly participated in them, but I think it's very ironic now that he's got his own version of Mao's Red Book, since Mao made his father's life very, very difficult.
He also started what they call wolf warrior diplomacy. So this is basically where you see Chinese freaking out in overseas, where they'll say Taiwan is China, Taiwan, nobody cares, and it makes you look dumb, right? Or there was a case just this week where in the airport in Japan, some mainland Chinese tourists were yelling at Taiwanese tourists in the airport, Taiwan is China. And the Taiwanese, Taiwan used to be a Japanese colony, and a lot of Taiwanese enjoy and study Japanese culture. So the Taiwanese went to a police officer and said, in Japanese, hey, could you tell them to chill out? And I think they had taken their seats too. The mainland Chinese had taken their seats. That's what the dispute was over. And the mainland Chinese said, stop talking dog language, speak human language, because they spoke Japanese. So it's like really, I guess it's cultural revolution. That's what it is. It's cultural revolution. You're either in or out. There's a bullet points and a doctrine you have to stick to. It's real caveman type diplomacy compared to, like, the Russians are the best. If they're not the best, they're in the top tier of diplomacy. They're always calm, collected, like Putin, right? Or Lavrov. You never quite know what's going on. They're calm, cool, collected. China now is the exact opposite, and they're pissing everybody off, including their own allies, right? So the problem with Xi Jinping is that because he basically took over the government, once he falls or something happens to him, it's a real problem to create a smooth succession to the next leader. And all signs are that he's on the outs with the CCP, but they can't replace him yet because of that. So it's going to take some time before they put in people not loyal to him and make a smooth enough transition. But I think, China, no matter what happens, I think China's fear, right? Because they may break up into a series of regional states, just like America may break up, because there's that theme of decentralization with the acquiring energy.
Yeah. And China's an Aquarius rising country, and Pluto is sitting right on its ascendant, so it's going to change.
So no matter what you think about China and whatever happens in the next 5 years, I do think that the center of global culture is going to move east. It's going to be in Asia, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
But the CCP, I think they're going to fall. It could be very chaotic in China, because that's China's history, You have these great rises and falls, famines. More Chinese died because of the Communist Party than the Japanese killing Chinese. I think it was, estimates are like 40 to 60 million.
Yeah.
Right. There was a cannibalism in the Great Leap Forward because they didn't have food in China.
Yeah, they had nothing to eat. It was brutal.
So the CCP just like every other government in the world, or the major powers, right? They're all formed shortly after World War II.
Mhm.
So that world of the boomers is coming to an end. All the government, like like Japan, it's just ruled by a bunch of like old men. China, same thing.
Well,
America, the same thing.
China went through a really interesting transformation when Mao passes away and Deng Xiaoping takes over and Nixon goes there and with Kissinger and opens the door to China again. And they eventually evolve China to this semi capitalist, semi socialist, state run economy. And theoretically, taking the best of both systems, right? So you have this socialist top down control grid running through the country in terms of governance and organization. But then you introduce the idea of personal property and profit, which had not been around for a long time in China. And it creates this hybrid that all these other countries around the world want to be able to emulate. They want to have the same top down control as China, but give the people enough economic latitude so they're not always in a constant state of rebellion. But the problem with China's model, and I'd love your thoughts about this, is that ultimately it's a closed loop. And you just delineated that Chinese will invest in real estate. That's about the only thing they can invest in. Right. And so, in order for China to expand, they have to somehow internally rewire their system and either have more control top down or less control of their quasi capitalist ventures. In either case, one of those two things has to expand. If they can't do that expansion internally, then this brings us back to proxy wars, Venezuela, and these other countries in the world where China then has to expand externally in order to break out of the closed loop system. So, where do you think we are with that? Do you think China has enough resources and has enough animus towards the West in order to pull back the curtain and then at some point make this thing go kinetic?
I think they don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Because this is this is a war for survival.
Yeah.
I heard, I didn't hear this personally, but through a friend, and he had dinner with an Orthodox family, and the head of the household told him China's the only country that we don't control 100%. Basically, I don't think it'll go to World War III, but there will be many regional wars. It's a war between the Zionist West and China. That's what it is. The coin clippers met their match, huh?
So, where does Russia fall in on that? Because Russia has been very pro-Israel in a lot of ways. Like,
Oh yeah, 1/3 of Israeli or Russians, basically they speak Russian.
yeah.
1/3.
So, where does Russia fall in on this? Are they going to side with the Zionist West, or are they going to get in bed with the bear or the dragon?
I think ultimately, they they're not going to be pro-American, although they've been open to it, right? There was even a point where Putin he he wanted to be part of NATO. Oh, Robert disappeared.
I just moved.
Robert. So I don't think that ultimately China can work in partnership with Russia, because there's a major ideological difference between China and Russia.
Mm-hmm.
At least nominally on the surface. Now, Russia is no longer communist. It's a Christian nation. Although we know who really runs it, but on the surface, it's a Christian nation. China is a totally atheist, materialist nation. And do you know who's the other major materialist nation? It's America.
Right, it's us.
The dream. It's see, people got to get it out of their head. Like, it's the CCP, it's a Cold War, and there's these commies against America. The dream of a high-level CCP official is to send their children to Harvard or London School of Economics, and then they secretly send their funds overseas and they leave China and they live in the West. That's the dream of a high-level CCP family.
Yeah.
And as an anecdote, I'll tell you a story. I went to Peking University for 1 year in the late 90s. And I saw this with my own. I didn't think of anything of it at the time. But a lot of I went on an exchange program, right? There were several white boys who got really hot Chinese girlfriends. I mean, it just happened almost immediately. And then when the year was over, they married, and the girlfriend got her, I don't know if they get citizenship, right? If you get married with an American.
Yeah.
This is a typical, it's known, later I found out, it's a typical CCP strategy as an entryway into America.
So it's like a kind of a Swalwell sort of event in some ways.
Yeah. And, a lot of these guys, they hadn't had a girlfriend like that before, or any girlfriend. Because, the typical, there's this stereotype of these Western nerds, and they go to Japan.
Yeah.
No social skills. They get this hot girl. It's like magic, right?
Yeah.
No, it's because they wanted American citizenship, and they're going to bring their family over too.
Yeah.
So, but Russia and China, they're just not on the same page. It's like there's an uneasy alliance, right? Russia doesn't want to give up half their territory to China, but it's happening. It's happening right now.
Yeah.
Right now, it's an economic thing, but so unfortunately, this is not going to end well for America.
Before we get into the swan song of America, I want to talk about like timeline for war. And we're coming up on that Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries. And I've gone through this on the Sunday night show. Every time Saturn is in Aries, it's a major war cycle. It's a major war cycle. And you and I talked about this offline. And you go back to 1968, where Saturn's kind of really, on fire in Aries, and you have the Tet Offensive, which is one of the longest and bloodiest battles in history, and that takes place in 1968. You have, the riots at the 1968 Democratic Convention in Chicago with a lot of domestic violence. So there's just a ton, and you go into the 90s. And you have the war in the Balkans and Kosovo. So Saturn and Aries, you even get it in World War II. right? So Saturn and Aries is like, it's a thing. And there's conflict under Saturn and Aries. And if you look at China's chart, if I'm not mistaken, because I have a picture of the chart in my brain, China is a really early Libra country, right? So they're going to go through this Saturn-Neptune opposition to their sun, their Libra sun. And they always play that Libra kind of game in the world, right? They're, take really one side or the other side. They're sort of, like superficially, Switzerland, trying to find, balance here, balance there. Hey, we'll show you how to mine these, rare earth minerals as long as we get some, right? Like they always play that kind of Libra role in the world. But with Saturn and Neptune starting to oppose that Libra sun, it just feels to me like we are a lot closer to that kinetic reality than we may want to, believe in or embrace.
A lot of proxy wars. I don't think America wants to nuke. I mean, China wants to nuke America or something.
No, there's too many good resources in this country. I mean, that's the thing. Whether you're Russia or China, if you want to conquer America, come on. You want the resources.
If it was up to China, they'd be happy to keep the game going. And basically, they just run the clock down, right? Because America's in such a debt. And also, okay, I'll put it to you like this. Who has the factories? Who has the productive capacity? And they have an educated workforce.
Right.
Okay. The bulk of Chinese
they can make batteries, is what you're saying.
The bulk of Chinese, they're at that they're on the production line. They're at that level. Yeah. But they do have millions and tens and millions of engineers, like that high level, right. Or let's just say the management level and people that can make decisions, right? America does not have that anymore, and especially since COVID. It wasn't great before, but especially since COVID, if you go look online, there are teachers, say from high school down, right? They're saying these students don't know anything. I mean, it is really bad.
They've dumbed down the education system to
and one of the things,
alarming degree.
One of the things, like say in Latin America, that is a big hurdle to economic development is education. Mm-hmm. They don't have good public education. Maybe they have universities, but at the level to get you up to the university level,
right?
Typically, it's not good. Like Brazil is much larger than Mexico. A lot more resources.
Yeah.
And their education level is lower than Mexico.
Interesting.
That's probably on purpose because the Western powers like to keep these rich countries. Like don't focus on education too much because we have to extract the resources, right?
Just watch Shusha. That's all you got to do. So Marco 7453 says, "What does it mean? It's not going to be good for America." Laugh out loud. So we never really talked about that. Do you want to address that question?
Well, I was talking about just fundamentally, if you look at who has what on paper, we don't have a lot. We don't have a leg to stand on because we shipped our economy to China. That was sort of the.
So you're talking about from an economic standpoint, like if America gets cut off from its source, right? And China's our heroin dealer. And if we get cut off from our source, we're fucked.
That in combination with the dollar, U.S. dollar being the world reserve currency,
Yeah.
That's what this whole tariff thing and cryptocurrency is about. The tariffs was really to harm China,
Mm-hmm.
not to help us. That's a bunch of BS.
Yeah, right.
So basically, you're seeing a decoupling.
By the way, when are you going to get some reparations for your people spending time in internment camps in this country? When is that happening?
Oh, Reagan already did that.
We took care of that.
We should have got more, but I think it was 20,000 for each person that was interned, but they lost houses, cars. Basically,
I guess 20,000 during the 80s meant a little something.
There was 1 month you had to sell everything before you got on the trains to go to the concentration camp. But Trump, he did the tariffs. That's all China. It's all about China.
Yeah.
The thing is, America's decoupling from China, but the BRICS countries aren't. That's the majority of the world, so they can still trade.
That's a really good point.
That they can still trade with everybody else. It's just that America's decoupling. And then cryptocurrency. I think everybody knows there's the control factor because you could see everything on the blockchain. There's no more private transactions, but they devised a system where in crypto there's stable coins like Tether, or Circle has USDC. I think Coinbase is also involved in USDC, but there's these stable coins where one token is pegged to $1 for trading purposes, right? You can sell your position, hop into stablecoin, which doesn't move.
Right.
It's basically always $1.
It's just a hold.
And then once, say, the price falls in the token you're interested in, then you can hop back in, and you didn't lose any value. Because let's say you hopped into Bitcoin or Ethereum, right? Well, those are moving. They'll move down with the market too. So say the coin, say some shit coin that you're interested in, right? That moves down, but then often Bitcoin will move down too. If you're in the stable coin, then it goes the coin you're interested in goes down. You still have 100% value of what you had, right? You hopped into a stable coin. Well, Congress, they passed a bill where the stable coins now have to buy U.S. treasuries. So they found a new source of buyers for our debt.
How do they enforce that?
Well, there's audits, and the Treasury knows who they're selling to.
Right. Okay.
So it's like kicking the can down the road, and it's another way to extend the Western banking system and the lifeline of America. I mean, they've been kicking the can down the road since the 70s. And then you had the crash of 87, right? And then, I mean, there's been multiple crises, but they printed more money, and the bubble goes into something else, right?
Right.
There is no more bubbles to go into. There's only hyperinflation, and when they
have an AI bubble that they're trying to artificially stimulate, but you and I both know that unless it produces something of value, that it's probably going to, be more fool's gold and short-term profit versus anything long-term that can pull the economy out of a nosedive.
Okay, well, the AI bubble, I think it's going to pop spring of 2026. It's not that far off.
Yeah.
there's 2 eclipses, and it's like mid-February and early March.
Yeah, they're in Leo Aquarius. Those eclipses.
So I think Nvidia is going to pop, and it's going to bring everything down with it, including crypto. But basically, going back to the stablecoin, I think it's not only to find another buyer for the debt, but they would probably inflate the dollar away, and then the public is left hanging the bag, holding the bag.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because people are using these stable coins.
Right.
So, because China, they basically sold half of their U.S. treasuries already. They had
a lot, and they had a lot, so a half is pretty significant.
Yeah, still. They had over $1 trillion, and now it's like 600 or 700 billion.
That was always the big stick that they had. Well, we have all these treasuries, and we could just dump them.
And then Japan is the largest holder. They have about $1 trillion of U.S. Treasury debt.
Wow.
They may be forced to sell soon because they have more debt than America, but they owe most of the debt to themselves or Japanese citizens.
Right.
But it's debt, and they're basically trapped now, where they can't raise interest rates, and they can't lower interest rates. They need to raise them, but the more you raise the interest rates, that increases the debt payments, right? Because then your debt has a higher interest rate too, right? Yeah. So they may be forced to sell soon. So all indications are there's going to be serious US dollar depreciation. We'll probably see the yen and euro collapse first, and then it'll be the dollar. But that may come as soon as towards the end of next year. Mm-hmm. And this is what I was saying. It's not going to end well because all indications are Trump didn't get enough of what he wanted from the tariffs. I don't know if he wanted China to capitulate or whatever, but like we said, China is going bunker mode because it's a similar situation for Russia. It's an existential threat. It's like it's an upcoming empire, and they cannot bend or give in past a certain level, or they become a vassal of the West or America, basically, or the Zionists, right? It's all the same thing. So they have to go bunker mode. And the other thing is that it's a very corrupt political elite, just like other countries, but they're also, it's like they're interested in Chinese empire, but they're also interested in maintaining the supremacy of the CCP, and that is breaking down because people are less afraid to post online. Chinese people to post online, and you have this phenomenon of what they call lying flat. It's basically the young people, they see no use in working hard anymore because the payout's not there anymore. So why am I
that's global. I mean, Gen Z here in this country has had the same realization. And I remember at a certain point, people in China were just over COVID, right? Like, we're over this. We're not going to do it anymore. And they pushed back, and there were demonstrations and work strikes, And of course, the Chinese tried to get a little heavy-handed with them. But I think they finally realized that, okay, we've taken this COVID thing as far as we could take it. We've eliminated as many undesirable people along the way as we needed to. I think it's time for us to end it. So it's not that the Chinese are not susceptible to internal pressure, which I think is kind of what you're inferring.
And Japan went through a similar thing. Their bubble popped in 1991.
Yeah.
And that was a direct result of the Plaza Accords, which was America setting the terms for the US dollar to let it what was it? Inflate? Well, basically they let the Japanese yen gain value. So it must have been the US dollar deflate. The yen gained so much value that it created the real estate bubble, which popped, and that basically ended Japan's rise. That was because of the Plaza Accords that America instituted, because Japan was about to become the number one economy in the world. But Japan is a vassal state of America. China is not, right?
Right.
But the difference between, and Japan went through the young people kind of like lying flat. That there was less focus on working hard to get that corporate position because there was less and less of those positions.
Right.
But the difference is Japan got rich before their bubble popped. China didn't. You have rich people in China. You have a middle class.
A certain segment of China got rich.
But it's a tiny slice of the Chinese population.
Right.
Like,
they didn't get to experience widespread middle class abundance. It was captured by an elite few. I have a question for you. I believe that this country's foreign policy, and even to a lesser extent, domestic policy, is actually being guided and generated by Israel itself. I feel like the talking points, the marching orders, the moves on the global chessboard, and even some of the things that are happening internally here are being directed by Tel Aviv. What are your thoughts? And I've seen some people actually confirm that, like with certain threads, that we are literally an occupied country. And if that's true, then it's not just the United States going to economic war with China. It's also Israel. And all these other supposed foes of the United States would also then fall under the rubric of being Israel's enemies and not their allies. What are your thoughts on that?
well, it's definitely ideological, coming from a messianic cult that both Trump and Putin are connected to.
Yeah.
So Trump converted to Chabad Judaism.
Oh, he did in 2017, and he just did that thing with Mark Levin or Levine or however you say his name, and he was telling everybody, "Yeah, it's true. I'm Jewish." Yeah. He was telling you the truth, right? You've seen. I sent you that clip, right? It's like, yeah, Mark Levin's like gotten all over him, and Trump was soaking it all up. And
well, one of the things that's not focused on, I mean, people know, but they don't focus on this part. The building of the third temple, one of the reasons they want to do that is to start the sacrifices again. 24/7 rivers of blood.
What do you think of the new what is it, East Wing of the White House, or West Wing of the White House? Like there are people who think that the ballroom is actually a version of the third temple. Well, have you heard that?
Yeah. Well, supposedly he even got that Trump got that coin. He's like the modern day King Cyrus.
Yeah.
So, and Ivanka and Jared Kushner are in Chabad, and Trump is a convert. So why wouldn't that manifest in the White House, right?
Yeah.
So that's a little disturbing that world politics is being determined by a messianic cult with they basically are in the Kremlin and the White House, the two of the major nuclear powers in the world, run by an end times cult. So well, I'll bring up China is supposedly an atheist state. And I used to believe that too until very recently. But they are involved in some heavy duty black magic. It came out in this this is another there's a lot of problems internally in China.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them you may have there's the Tibet issue, there's Xinjiang with the Uyghurs, the Uyghurs, right?
Yeah.
The supposed concentration camps. But that doesn't really affect the average Han Chinese. Tibet and Xinjiang, it's in the far west. But we have also heard of the organ trafficking.
Yeah.
When you say organ trafficking, you think heart, kidney, like maybe corneas. It came out that they have an industrial scale stem cell harvesting industry. And this came out in first there was a news item where Xi Jinping was walking next to Putin, and the mic was on, and Xi Jinping was caught saying, we can live to 150 years. This is it has a name. I think it's Project 981, and it's an official state project. Yes, 981 life extension. It's it's not cheap, and you have to have these injections every month. But they extract stem cells from young men and infants. So they have like breeders that are breeding kids, and they tap their spine to get stem cells. And they're basically there's people disappearing also, because this is happening on an industrial scale. And they also take them from the teeth, young men's teeth. So there's this case of this actor Alan Yu, who do I have this share? I can.
Let's see if we can do this. Hold on. Get out of this. Do you have a link, like a text link? You can.
I can't.
You can send it to me in the comments.
Okay.
Like private chat here. So anything that you have, I just texted you a private chat. Just drop a link in there, and I'll work with it.
It's the Wikipedia link for Yu Men Long, aka Alan Yu. He was an up and coming actor, and it exposed this. It's like the Hollywood of China, like the Chinese movie industry.
Yeah.
And everything in China it all goes back to the party, right?
Yes.
So their media, although Hollywood's not too dissimilar, like even ownership of real estate, you don't really own it.
No.
It's a 90-year lease
in China.
Yeah.
Right.
Typically, you're okay. You could say whatever you want as long as you're a nobody. But once you make major money, that's when you have problems in China. It's not like it's totally censored. But if you're somebody that has significant wealth, that's when you have to make allies, and you better be on the right side of the party, because that's when you get taken down. Is like, do you remember who's the guy, the founder of Alibaba, and then he disappeared?
Yeah.
So there was this guy Alan Yu, and
died of 9/11. That's interesting.
There's a reason for that.
Yes.
So he and a lot of these things are documented. He was invited to a private dinner in an apartment block, and there was over a dozen people there, and these are all directors, socialites, but they're anything in China. If you're at a certain level, they're all high party members, or their families are connected to the party.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called the Chinese Communist Party, but China is not communist anymore. They're actually closer to typical fascism. It used to be like you could get food, or sort of like a welfare program. They don't have that anymore. In fact, America is probably more socialist communist than China is. So he was invited to this dinner, and they killed him. And there were neighbors that that saw what was going on, tried to stop it, and they were killed too. It's like something like 5 or more neighbors. There were gunshots, and this is on video. They killed him. So what was this about? Number one, at the most basic, it's a system where these actors are like prostitutes for the elite. Not unusual. It's the same in Hollywood, right? He did not go along. And then he was sort of like had a black mark. But it's deeper than that, because he shares the same birthday as Xi Jinping.
No, interesting.
This is where I was like blown away, because I lived in China 1 year, and a lot of the typical, if you know about Chinese culture, especially like Hong Kong movies, the triads, or the mafia, they'll do all the incense, and they'll do these rituals. That's like traditional Chinese culture, right? You don't really see that as much in China, because of the history of Cultural Revolution basically destroyed a lot of the Chinese culture inside China. Their culture now is like Prada bags and fancy cars, But apparently it exists among the CCP elite. So he shares the same birthday as Xi Jinping. People think that it was a kind of a destiny swapping or life extension for Xi Jinping. He was also, another thing that led to his death, they wanted him to sign some documents, and it might have been, in that agency, many actors have also died in a similar manner.
Interesting.
It's like something like 9.
This is like out of a science fiction movie.
So it's like let's say 10. It's around there. Around 10 people, same fate, right?
Mhm.
And their names were used in arms contracts, in military contracts. Why you would need to do that, I don't know. But
Yeah, that's my question. Why would they use their names for these contracts?
So I don't know. But he didn't sign it, so that's another reason. And the body, it was said that his teeth, he didn't have any teeth. Well, the teeth are used for
The stem cells.
Specifically, I don't know why, specifically young men. And
He's 37, so he's bordering on not being too young. But I don't know when this picture was taken, but he certainly looked young.
Oh, is he an 18th birthday? What does it say? 15th.
15. So
15th. Yeah.
You know, Donald Trump is June 14th.
So they didn't have to take his stem cells. There's plenty of people you could take stem cells from, but it's suspected that he comes from a royal bloodline also.
Mm-hmm.
So then more power, right?
He looks a little he looks refined. Looks a little regal there.
So there's some things you can't prove, but some.
He looks like he has some white boy in him.
He was born in Xinjiang, so I don't know if he has some Turkic influence.
Yeah.
But so you can't prove this, but some psychics have come up with that there's some connection between him, this Alan Yu Minlong, America, and the Middle East. And I think Israel is involved in that. So like you were saying, Israel might be working with China against America.
I think Israel is more than capable of playing both sides against the middle. I have no doubt about that. But at some point, it's sort of like they want to ride the biggest stallion they can, because I believe that, you know, through Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, wherever they decide they want to make their home, or maybe it's Ukraine, who knows? Like, I believe their goal is world domination. And it is world domination, and you need to have a country that has a really big stick in order to carry that out. And I think it's pretty clear that in the United States, we have been deeply infiltrated by a number of governments, but the one that Tucker Carlson seems to complain about the most is the one that we're talking about. Now, would they, you know, not have a, I mean, look, I think there's enough, you know, receipts to prove that Israel's got some investment in Belt and Road. Like, they turned the port in Haifa over to the Chinese. The Americans used to run that port in Haifa, but they don't run it anymore. And I think that was part of their commitment to being a part of this Belt and Road with China. Yet at the same time, feels like we're a bit of a proxy government here. So it could, I mean, this would be, you know, straight out of the Rothschild playbook of basically funding both sides of any conflict. Do you think that Israel could be overtly involved with the U.S. and covertly involved with China?
And he was killed on 9/11.
Yeah.
I don't think that's random.
Right.
So,
I mean, that was essentially 9/11 in China would have been 9/11 in the United States when, what's his name? Charlie Kirk died. It was 9/11 in Asia when Charlie Kirk died. So these guys theoretically share the same death day.
Yeah, and so there's people that are disappearing in China. Like,
Yep.
there are parents walking around with signs, my child disappeared. So this is an issue in China, and they really messed up. I think he wasn't supposed to die, maybe, and he was only supposed to sign the contract, but they killed him, and then it became this big thing that they cannot hide. And Xi Jinping's family is directly connected to this. Like I said, in the Alan Yu Minlong's agency, multiple other people have mysterious deaths. Right? Get this, Robert. There's a art gallery in Beijing. It's a big facility. It used to be an old factory. They have basically modern art, right? One of the key exhibits is plastinated bodies. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I've seen them.
You know where that work is done?
Where?
In China. They're the only ones that can do it at an industrial scale.
Wow.
And people have noticed the guys that died, there's the bodies, there's no skin. You just see like the muscles, right? They look suspiciously similar to the guys that died. And Yu Menlong, his you know the name, his last name's Yu, right?
Yeah.
And Chinese has tones, so if you say like you know the just the tone of it, but you, well, the name for fish is you, right?
Mm.
So there's a body in there with a fish head.
No, really?
You don't see and it appeared after he died.
Oh, wow.
So and I believe the lady that wanted to have a fun night with him and he refused, she owns the plastination company.
Oh, that's too weird.
So I also heard that elite rich foreigners either they fly to China and partake in these rituals, or there's a pay-per-view. So it's not just it's not just a Chinese thing. It's connected to this larger global.
The pay-per-view thing has been going on for a long time.
It's satanic network.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I've Hunter S. Thompson was involved in that.
He was filming him, right?
He was the guy behind the camera when they would be satellite uplinking or direct beaming this into people's homes where they had paid an exorbitant amount of money to watch this torture take place.
And so the life extension project is called 981. It's 981 life extension. And one of the major investors is Haier. Haier is like the GE of China. They make a lot of washing machines and refrigerators. So it's public. This is like a public. It's almost like a cannibalistic or vampire project.
It sounds like a vampire kingdom.
So people can look into it, but that I think it's one of the most interesting cases about China that's come out in the last 10 or 20 years. And another thing, now you can't confirm this as far as like what it's connected to, but it gives you an idea, because remember, I lived in China and I know a lot about China. And I thought mainland China, they pretty much gave up on the occultism, right? Even acupuncture, the TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, that's created by the CCP and it works, but they dropped out. There's a particular school or style of acupuncture that's occult, like to release traumas and deal with ghosts and stuff like that. They found a kid who had been extracted, and he had hole marks on his head. So it looks like they used acupuncture needles to bind his soul or something before the kid. I mean, this is like deep stuff, Robert. So to sum it up, what does this all mean? It means that China is doing things which you can't make any justification for. And even Chinese people are waking up to this now. So that adds to China, even though basically China collapsed already, right? They had a major collapse. Even though they had a major collapse, they're still maybe number 2 economy in the world. And projections are they'll overtake the U.S. economy by 2032, 2034, something like that. So, and like I said, they have collapsed. It's bad in China right now. One of the reasons why Japan has so many Chinese immigrants and people Chinese going to Japan is because they're trying to get out.
Yeah.
You know, Japanese people, they're unhappy because they say, oh, we're being taken over, and these Chinese, mainland Chinese are so rude and they don't follow the rules. Well, they don't understand. The Chinese are there because they're trying to get out of China. So we're facing major regional wars with China.
Right.
But also every government in the world is destabilized and collapsing. So it's a very chaotic situation. Mm-hmm. The last thing
I don't know. I mean, when you look at Qatar and Bahrain and those countries that signed the Abraham Accords, Saudi Arabia, they seem to be doing pretty well on the surface. I know a lot of people who wouldn't go there, or they've gone there, they wouldn't go back. But would you put them in the category of collapsing?
They're doing okay right now. What they're doing a rebrand.
Yeah.
Because while Islam is growing in Europe, it's collapsing in the home countries.
Yeah.
Something like upwards of 30% of the young people, some say it's 50%, but 30% of the young people, young Islamics are walking away because they have the internet now.
They also have money. They also have more money and resources at their disposal.
Well, there's so many contradictions in the Quran that are easily pointed out.
Yeah.
There's no answer for it. Before, people didn't ask these questions because it wasn't so. You had to go find the book, find the passages. Now you could click on one.
And then you had to go to the imam and then ask the imam what the imam thought about it. And
the answer is don't think about it too much and don't question.
Right. That's really
that doesn't work with the Gen Z and Gen A anymore.
Yeah, the Salafist point of view, the Wahhabists are no, you don't question the Quran.
So
right? There is no other interpretation than that of Allah and the Orthodox interpretation of it.
You could argue that Saudi Arabia is more economically active than Europe now. They're doing a lot.
Yeah, I mean that's why I brought those countries up, because they seem to be kind of on the rise, and not they're not in free fall, and in fact Saudi Arabia is definitely going through this major rebrand. And did you see the fallout from the comedians that went there?
Oh, to Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, they had the Riyadh Comedy Festival.
Oh, yeah, I heard. I can't remember which comedian it was, but got banned.
Well, Tim Dillon got banned because he started talking shit. uh, before he got there. He was bragging how much money he was going to make, but then he went a step too far, and they banned him. And there were people, you ask them, well, why are you going to Saudi Arabia? And Louis C.K. was like, well, it's a great way to open up the dialogue and, potentially bring change to that. So they're taking this altruistic view of taking money from a government that does atrocious things to its women and, homosexuals, whatever, right? And Louis C.K. has this kind of, even Dave Chappelle kind of went there. Dave Chappelle went there, but he also went in the same direction as Louis C.K. Like there was some altruistic benefit. Pete Davidson, to his credit, said, I'm there for the money. That's all I got to say about it. I got offered a gig. It's good money. I'm going to take it. So.
Well, Russell Peters went there, or he went to some Middle Eastern country, and it was one of the princes. It was probably Saudi Arabia, and then he met the guy, and the guy speaks American English. Says, "Hey man, what's up? Yeah, you're gonna do a private set for me." These guys listen to hip hop. They drink. Everybody knows this. So
right.
So yeah. They're not stupid. They're being proactive and modernizing. Yeah. And it's no joke to say that the direction, basically Europe's going to become a backwater, and places like Dubai and Middle East, they deal with oil all the time. And now one of the things that's happening is, this page right here, right? The Shanghai Gold Exchange, they have 4 depositories. It's Shanghai. Outside of China, they have 4 depositories. So Dubai, Singapore, Malaysia, and Hong Kong. So this is a major move because the Western exchanges, the LBMA in London, the COMEX, people don't trust them anymore, especially after it was Thanksgiving weekend. The silver, basically, they were on the verge of the silver totally breaking out and running away. And silver has been going up. It's doubled this year, but most of that was from summer. So in basically 6 months, it doubled. So it hit $67 today an ounce, and that's another all-time high. So they don't countries don't trust Western banking, right? Because, like Russia, they'll say, well, we're just going to take your gold. Why would you deposit your gold in London or New York? Right? The SWIFT system, they blocked China and Russia. And I think it was during when Obama was president, they wanted to block Russia then. And the president of the SWIFT, he said no, because if you do that, it's going to totally discredit SWIFT with the other countries in the world. When Trump came in, they replaced the head of the SWIFT, and they blocked Russia and China. And now Russia and China are developing their own SWIFT, right? So you don't the other countries in the world, they don't trust Western banking. They don't trust the SWIFT, which is for bank wires.
Weren't they going to do that with Ripple XRP? Wasn't that the plan?
Well, that was supposed to replace SWIFT.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, right now, Russia and China are on the outs with Western banking. So this metals move is quite significant because China's has been accumulating a lot of gold, and they're really loading up on silver. There's some noise in the background. Can you hear that?
It's my phone. It's going off.
Okay. So this is another factor that America has no answer for, because on that Thanksgiving weekend, they said there was a glitch, and so trading was stopped. There wasn't any glitch. They just wanted to keep the system from imploding. So right after that weekend, the metals trading desks, like JP Morgan has a gold and silver desk, right? They moved from New York to Singapore.
Oh, wow.
So from this point forward, Asia is going to be setting the metals prices, and they have a majority of the gold and silver. So there's that old saying, he who holds the gold makes the rules. You know, supposedly we have gold in Fort Knox, but
no,
if they did an audit, I don't think anything's safe.
I seriously doubt it.
So this is a major problem. Like, basically, Trump would probably want to step down, but because of health and or because of the situation, because he likes to win. He didn't win on this one. He got a partial win because China's so damaged now. But the West, meaning America, has the crypto market is basically controlled by America. Most of the coins and all that was created in America. China, so they're banking on crypto as the next big thing. China is banking on commodities, and control of the metals is part of that. So let me see. Yeah, here's one. Basically, the chart, it doesn't. Okay, this one goes back to 1980, and it shows a clear breakout. But there's another chart. I think it's a 150-year chart that shows we broke out of that. So whether you consider 1980 or further back, it's a decades-long formation chart pattern, which shows we won't hit this immediately, but it could hit $1,000. Silver's like 67 right now.
Yeah.
I started buying silver at $8 an ounce over 20 years ago, and it was one of the worst investments you could have made because it's been suppressed. It's like a political metal.
Yeah.
But now they've printed so much money. Gold's been suppressed, so it's not just going up. It's like a beach ball that you held underwater and you let it go. Right now, it's just catching up where it should be, and gold's gone up a lot. I think it's around 43 or 4,400 right now. Just to catch up to gold, silver should be $150 right now. So that's just to get even.
It's not that far away.
I'm hearing that silver could hit 100 by the end of this month. If not, definitely in the first quarter. I think 150 will happen easily. Now, say 150 to 200 is what I'm looking at. Like it should hit that within the next year. Other people are saying like it could go to like 400 to 600. I think that's a little bit over exuberant, but it's not out of the question. I would say silver, I would just buy it. If you have some money, just buy it and sit on it. And I have a friend that's a jeweler. So he works with gold and silver all the time, but he's not really thinking. you have to think he's designing and he's making jewelry every day. He's working with gold and silver and diamonds and stuff.
Yeah.
But he's looking at this. He's not looking at the wider situation. I told him, why don't you buy silver? He says, I know, man, but I've been saving to buy a truck and it's kind of tough right now. But what he doesn't understand is if, say, in June of this year, he would have put 25,000 in silver, he'd have like 60 or 70,000 right now. Because the dollar, silver's not going up, the dollar's devaluing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, crypto, which wasn't a good trade this year, we got hosed by Trump and BlackRock. The crypto didn't do well because it's been manipulated, and also Binance, they kind of imploded the market on October 10th. There was a huge drop because they tried to wash people out. You know, these exchanges are so big, they make the market, so they'll try to like get you out of your position by plunging the prices.
Yeah,
and then they just buy it back, right? But there's so many institutions involved. I think some of them got in bad positions, and then major players have been just selling since then, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the crypto, it should go up. Like basically, it's just been going down all year. It should go up.
I don't know, man. Crypto is like this zombie commodity. And
well, I'll say this: it's a trading asset. It's not a safe haven, right? I wouldn't. I know these things, but I'm in it because there is a large profit potential. But you have to basically look at the market.
You have to be like a day trader with crypto now.
That's true, but I'm not a day trader.
No, I know you're not. But you have to have that mentality with crypto.
Well, you have to know what's going on in the market every day, basically.
Sure,
even if you don't
absolutely.
trade. So,
absolutely.
So crypto should go up January, February, 2026, and because of those eclipses, I think it's February 17th and March 3rd. I think it's best to get out mid-February because, you know, it's going to happen like in a couple months. So I'll make my prediction. I think the stock market is going to crash into March 2026. And it's going to be a big crash, right?
That's right after the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. Also, you know what's interesting? I think somewhere around that time, the South Node goes onto Trump's ascendant, where his Mars is. So as soon as the nodes change and go from Pisces, Virgo to Aquarius, Leo, Trump's going to get hit really hard.
Well, you know, people don't talk about this, but a lot of his base among young men, they got hosed in crypto this year.
That's right.
When Trump was supposed to be the crypto president, you know, Trump's family has made $9 billion. Well, on what we can look at, has made $9 billion this year, and a lot of that came from the Trump coin, which was a pump and dump shit coin. That's how the year started with his pump and dump, right?
Yep.
So he's lost support among a lot of the young men because they're saying, you know, show us the money. All you did was hose us all year.
Right. He just became an orca in the crypto ocean. He became the apex predator, really, in a lot of ways.
So I'm planning to cash out of crypto wherever it's at mid-October, and I'm gonna roll it into silver. Not because I want to make money in silver, but it's better to be sitting in gold and silver is more leveraged. It's better to have it sit in silver than US dollars. And I'm going to wait until Bitcoin drops to like 44,000 or lower. You know, in a bad situation, it could go to like 25,000 or something. At that point, the coins are going to be so crushed. They're pretty much crushed right now. but they'll be so crushed. I think if you say cryptocurrency next year, it'll be if you say Bitcoin, it'll be like somebody farted in the room. That's when you want to buy. If you want to be in crypto. If not, I would buy silver.
Mm-hmm.
And there's numismatic, which are the collectible coins. I would focus on bullion, just a pure metal value.
Yeah.
Not the collectible coins. And 1 ounce rounds, like the coins, 1 ounce rounds or 10-ounce bars. Just because they have 100-ounce bars, 1,000-ounce bars, they're hard to get because the big players are scooping them all up. Because if you need to sell, you can sell in 1 ounce increments or 10 ounce. If you have a 100-ounce bar or 1,000-ounce bar, you have to sell it all at once. So I would get smaller increments. We use ounces overseas; they use grams, but it's the same idea. I would get smaller increments of metal as long as it's near spot price. The U.S. Mint makes American Silver Eagles. Those have a premium. If you're interested in those, you can get those, but you can also just get bullion. It's fine. I went to the coin shop this week. I bought some silver for my relatives in Japan. And I'm not going to ship it there. I'm just holding it for them. And usually I could just walk in and do my business, but it's getting more busy. But busy means maybe there's 5 people in there. I don't think there's even 10 people. But you have to think that it could take like 20 to 30 minutes to process one person. And even with several agents, the difference between right now and the line going out the door is maybe 6 months or something. Like right now, even though there's definitely more people buying, but there's also people selling. America's one of the few places where you can still buy silver, because in Asia, they're a lot more savvy and there's a lot more buyers. In America, there's gold and silver bugs that have been sitting on it for like 20, 30 years or more.
Yeah.
And they're, they may not even be around that long, right? These people, they want to catch it out. So there's silver coming into the market in America. But I think the average public won't get into silver until it's like $500 or something like that, because they're totally unaware of what money is. They don't understand value. The young people today, they can't even read the clock with the hands on it.
Right. It's all digital.
And basically half of Americans are functionally illiterate. It's not a joke. So people are uneducated on basic things. If you talk to them about economics, they really don't understand what you're talking about. They won't understand until, like I said, silver's in the hundreds of dollars, like $500 or something like that. So there's still time. So if you have some money, I would think about it. Not financial advice, but if you look at the chart, it doubled this year
it's parabolic. It's parabolic.
It did better than the stock market. So
I'm invested in chinchillas. That's where I'm going. Chinchillas. I think chinchillas are going to be a huge commodity, because they're going to provide clothing and warmth for people. And it worked for the Jews when they came to America and became furriers and chinchilla merchants. So why not? It's a time-honored tradition. And I think the market right now for chinchillas, you can get in at a pretty good rate. What do you think?
Well, it's better than holding US dollars. A lot of us have heard about this for years. but it's going to happen next year. I think end of next year could be when, the dollar's already lost significant value since COVID because they printed trillions of dollars. But especially with the wars, they're going to print even more money. And the pressure, basically there's a battle, right? We've been talking about this whole show between China and the BRICS and the West, but basically it's America. And they hold the commodities and the gold and silver. So that is not gonna it's gonna be a come to Jesus moment, especially for Americans that they have never visited some of these countries. Like I went to Brazil, right? Or if you talk to people in Argentina, typically in those countries, a person will see at least one currency collapse in their lifetime. So this hasn't happened since maybe the Depression or something like that, but it's going to be even more dramatic than that.
The people who held chinchillas during the Depression did just fine.
It's worth. It's funny because what we're going through, it's very similar to Weimar Germany, which led to the rise of Hitler.
I'm just messing around with the chinchilla thing. Actually, I'm not really going in on chinchillas, but that's how a lot of people made their fortunes.
Yeah, I put some links, 2 links there.
Yeah,
they're the 15 kilo silver slabs that they deal with in China. These are industrial size silver slabs. And one of the, silver has a lot of industrial uses.
That's why I think it's going up ultimately,
including military.
That's why I think it's going up.
And Trump, he designated silver as a strategic metal now. So a news item came this week. Samsung is developing a new EV battery that uses 1 kilo of silver. So I believe, correct me if somebody could correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's 32 ounces of silver. So that's for one car. So
right. No, I mean this is something that Cliff High has had some pretty out there predictions, right? And one of his predictions was around silver. And I think it was around maybe 2017, 2018. And he was really bullish on silver. And he was talking about sort of the next level of batteries, semiconductors, and that silver was going to play a really significant role in the next iteration of technology. And so he was telling people to get in 2017, I think even like as far back as 2016. But the idea was that it was just around the corner. Like, because he spoke with that kind of immediacy. I don't think he was right at the time, but ultimately I think he's turning out to be right on this one.
Well, everybody's been right since, people were talking about this since the early 2000s.
Yeah.
They were right, but the political situation wasn't right.
Right.
I had silver. It's been a long wait, man. It's been a long wait. But now's the time because it's the reset, right? So I looked, 32 ounces of silver, 1 battery. It's about $2,200 or something right now. So $1,044 at $67 an ounce. So if it goes up, even doubles, they just pass the costs on to the consumer.
Right.
And these batteries are solid state, so it won't have the problem of catching on fire like the other batteries. And I read that it can be charged to 80% in 9 minutes.
Wow.
So that would be a hot seller, right? Because that knocks out a lot of the problems that people have had with the EV batteries, right?
Yeah.
Also, there's a lot of other products that use silver, but it's a minuscule amount. So let's say the price of silver doubles or even triples. Well, we used $1 silver. So we just pass the cost on. We charge $2.
Right.
Or $3.
Right.
But collectively, in a tight silver market, the price will really skyrocket. So again, I wouldn't think about it in terms, because this goes for all currencies. The yen looks like it will be a Turkish lira situation. Warren Buffett just moved like 300 something billion into Japanese markets. I don't know why, but obviously he thinks Japanese markets are safer than America. But the yen, I think they're going to go to a new currency. Same with the euro, same with the US dollar.
Right.
I wouldn't think of it as trading in silver or gold or buying gold. What you're doing is moving from one currency to a superior currency.
Right.
You know, for there you'll have consolidations, like it'll move up and pull back, and it'll move up and pull back. But you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Neptune and Aries is inflationary. It's that sort of like that dissolving of the old currency.
Well, I mean, clearly that happened during the Civil War when Lincoln issued the greenbacks as a form of payment.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, that was under Neptune and Aries.
So the war cycle, it's like 5 years or something. So definitely 5 years out, silver should still be going up. And I don't know.
But how does let's just break this down for a second. How does this look in a realistic situation? Let's say, for instance, the economy crashes, which I think is kind of the point, and the problem is the economy crashes. The reaction is that people will freak out. And the solution is some form of a digitized dollar that maybe 5 or 6 banks sort of are in control of and are jockeying for your service for their Wells Fargo coin or their Bank of America coin or whatever it is, because that's kind of been the loose plan. But they're all still trackable. They're all still traceable. And in order to access your money, you move your funds into one of the banks that's been specified as being one of the competing coins or coins that will compete for your service. But if you don't want to do that, because we know what goes along with that, there's even less privacy than there is now when it comes to spending your money. At least cash gives you some degree of anonymity. And now where does silver come into play? You're sitting on all this silver and you don't want to be a part of the system. Do you barter with people because you have silver? At what point does silver become even much more valuable in that scenario?
I'm not going that far.
Well, but I mean, it's a question we have to ask.
So some people can try to do that, but basically,
like in a currency flip when there's no more dollars, what role does silver play, and how do we exchange that?
I think it's a Uranus and Gemini situation where you benefit from having multiple identities, multiple passports, multiple residencies, and multiple currencies. So you may use whatever digital dollar, or if it's just the regular US dollar, for day-to-day
But
things.
some people may not want to do that. I mean, because at some point the digital dollar becomes the mark of the beast. I mean, I just you just play that out to the end result, right? Oh, all you got to do is just use your phone. Use your phone. Oh, no, your phone's not going to be enough now. There's too much security issues with your phone. Now we got to do a retinal scan. Now your retinal scan is going to be the thing that's going to basically be in charge of your transactions. Oh, somebody got your eyeball.
Well, Robert, I think you can't do it as an individual. You have to find a community of like-minded people.
Well, I agree with that. But I'm just trying to get you read. In a world where the dollar's collapsed and people are herded into, a false reality of competing digital dollars, but they're all the same and all in the same system. Where does silver play a role in that? Is it a tradable commodity? Does it take on more value?
Well, that's the point, at least for me. It's to hold the value of your money in an intermediate space, and then when you need to, you can cash some out into their shitcoin dollars, right?
I think you'll need the silver to create silver bullets to kill the fucking aliens. That's what I think. That's going to be the key to silver. If you've got silver bullets, you'll be able to take out a reptilian. That's what I think. Yeah.
I would just say that.
Now, wouldn't that be worth a lot of fucking money if that was true?
Oh yeah, I think. Have you looked at the Hollywood celebs recently? They are looking pretty odd. Little. I think it's more than Ozempic. Let's say that.
Yeah, some of them are not looking well at all.
So I would say maybe before New Year's, you might want to think about going to your local coin shop and looking at those coins. It's even if you bought when it's $100, it's 67 right now. $100 is still cheap, but if you're thinking about doing it, even if you don't buy, I would look at your local coin shop, and you can buy online too. There's like Ampex, and they ship insured and stuff like that. But it's we're at the moment where a lot of people that have been hearing about this for years. The moment's here. I started buying like right before 9/11. That's over 20 years ago. And let me tell you, when I held my first gold coin, I was like, I had cold sweats because like nobody knows that I have. And when I had the realization of the level of debt that's in this country, but it's a system, right? Yeah. I had cold sweats. This was like 2001, but the problem was the metals couldn't run because they were able to trade more paper contracts than physical with no problem. The problem now is people want physical delivery. They're not taking cash settlement. So there's like 15, 20 plus banks that are underwater. They have large positions. We're talking billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Where they lent out silver at like $30 or $20. So they don't have that physical silver. To cover that position, now they have to buy is $67 or maybe $70 or whatever it takes to get physical silver to close those positions. So the problem with not enough physical silver, it can be solved. And that the solution is the price has to go higher. So like I said, $150 is about the level to catch up to where gold is.
Here's what I think. I think if you can maximize your silver buys now, and let's say you throw in 15 grand on silver, which is, it's a lot of silver. I mean, it's a lot of physical product. I think the idea or the ideal would be wait till it gets to be a certain price, find somebody who'll buy it at that price, cash out, get dollars if they're still around, and then use those dollars to create the next level of your lifestyle. To me, that would be the way to go. And the next level of your lifestyle might be to purchase land, or maybe you want to move out of the country and set up shop somewhere else where it's going to be cheaper to live, but you're going to need the dollars to make that journey. I think that, to me, that makes the most sense. That you want to get in, and then at a certain point you want to get out, but you don't want to wait too long, because then you're kind of trapped in, well, what do I do with the silver now that everybody's making purchases through their cell phone or their digital retinal eye scan? That's what I think. And I think in that regards, it could be a good investment as long as you can find a taker, get enough, and buy and sell at the right price, so you feel like you got the most value for whatever it is that you purchased.
That's what the goal of most crypto people is to cash out before 2030. There's something about 2030 that
well, 2030 is when Saturn goes into Taurus, and officially it goes into Taurus a little bit before then, but between now, literally, with Uranus ingress into Gemini and the regress into Taurus briefly, we only have kind of one major Earth position in that 3-year cycle between Saturn and Aries and Saturn and Taurus, and that's Jupiter in Virgo, which isn't the best place for Jupiter. It's like, just, I think, probably going to be a lot of out of work people, right? A lot of Virgo service oriented people are there's going to be a glut of them. That's what I think. And the Jupiter retrograde doesn't bode well for the workforce. So it's also mutable, right? Like, of all the Earth signs, Virgo is the most mutable. So it's not a really strong position for Earth during a time in a cycle where the outer planets are, they're not involved in Earth. And when Saturn and Taurus comes back in, to me, this has always been the model. The next 3 years is molten. It's a molten, we are in a state of volcanism where everything gets melted down, including the family's silverware, to probably put them into, little silver bars. Like, everything becomes vulcanized. And by the time we hit 2030 and Saturn goes into Taurus, the vulcanization process ceases and it cools. And whatever new reality, physical and or otherwise, is around in 2030, that is the new reality. That is the new time. That is the period of the reset. And nothing is really written in stone. Like the Kyoto Accords and the Paris Accords for the Green New Economy, they were all supposed to be tied into Agenda 2030. Well, look what's happened. Basically, they've said, fuck that. We're going to build all these coal plants now because we want to power the data centers. And it doesn't really matter if we're going to head into a global warming or a climate crisis. We've got a much bigger issue at hand. So, even that's kind of gone by the wayside to a large extent. But I think 2030 is significant. And it's when everything congeals and cools off. And I think there's a lot that can happen between now and 2030. Some of it can be, I think, really fascistic and, having flirtations with, Christian nationalism, and there's some very fascistic elements that you could tie into Saturn and Neptune and Aries. But there's also this interesting kind of rise of the individual, and the individual pushing back on the gravity of the system. So the next 3 years, I don't think are going to be easy, but I also don't think it's going to be a cakewalk for totalitarianism to just take hold in our lives. That's one man's opinion.
Well, they're trying to build up this East-West, the China. Although most Americans, I don't think they like China, but it's not in their mind that I think there's more focus on Russia, but it's actually China we're going to be really dealing with.
I think the focus has become Israel.
Yeah, in Charlie Kirk, it's just like on every feed, it's just Charlie Kirk memes, right? But it's really China.
There should be one of those memes with Russia and Israel, and Israel's looking over to China, Israel's looking over to Russia, and it's hold my beer. Like, we should have one of those memes, because I think that's what's happening.
It's really China that's the focus, but eventually they'll ramp this up into like in China, every time they have domestic problems, they do something to point at the foreigner. And they take
it out on the rest of the world.
I was there. Was it 98? It was 98 or 99. The U.S. bombed the Chinese embassy in Belgrade in Serbia. It was Yugoslavia at that point.
Saturn and Aries.
And U.S. said it was an accident. It wasn't an accident, right?
Yeah.
But we're in the foreign students dorm, and there were thousands of Chinese students. It was scary. They were angry and they're protesting outside the dorm. But the government, they kept control over it. They had buses to bus Chinese students to the American embassy, and they had newly printed full color signs. They said, here's your sign. And then everybody had a chance to throw like a water bottle at the embassy. But beyond that, they're like, all right, that was your one thing. Next. And people could release their anger, not against the party, but against the foreigner, right?
Right.
They're trying to, because you said they're going to be dealing, it's not going to be a total fascist control. They're going to be dealing with the domestic uprisings. Every country is. And but it becomes more dangerous because the more unstable, like I told you, the CCP has major internal problems.
Yeah.
The weaker the party gets, the more they have to invade Taiwan, the more they have to direct the anger, direct the focus outside of the country than towards the party leaders.
I think it's time for me to do another deep dive on China's chart on Sunday night. I think it's been a while, so it's pretty timely. Although, I'm kind of in this. All this Sagittarius has got me into like holiday stuff and kitschy Christmas. Like, I know it's a fucking fake holiday and everything, but I don't really care. The Sagittarian stellium has got me in a celebratory mood. So who knows what I'll talk about on Sunday night. But I think that revisiting the China chart would be really instructive.
This you can't prove, but I got a while back. This is like intuitive, and I doused it, right? I think Xi Jinping is a foreign agent because
people have said that. You
have to be insane, retarded, or an agent, or a combination of all three to mess up the track China was on. Because to people that don't follow China, it may seem all the same to you, but there was a major policy shift about 10 years ago. most of the foreigners have left. They definitely left after COVID, but it became when I was there up until 2015. Chinese very open. They wanted to engage with foreigners. You have to think that the country had basically been closed for several generations, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So they wanted to learn everything about the West. They were interested, open dialogue, and then it became uh, this wolf warrior diplomacy where it's always the foreigners, and we've been humiliated through the opium wars. And all. That's true, but they doubled up on that to the point where the foreigners and foreign companies felt unwelcome, and they started pulling out of China. So, I think there's a lot that we don't know behind the scenes because, like, Putin has 6+ doubles, Trump has doubles. Nobody really knows who runs China, but
Hey, there's been periods of time where Xi has just been MIA.
yeah.
Like, where is this guy?
Well,
Right.
I do think he's going to be replaced, but it's not a snap decision and they do it. They have to prepare the ground so it's stable when they switch him out. And I'm pretty sure Xi Jinping's kids have studied America, and I heard that he had an escape plan to Kazakhstan. There's heavy Chinese influence everywhere, but a lot of Chinese are focusing on Kazakhstan. But he hasn't been able to leave the country. They basically any chance that he would have to sneak away, the party makes sure that they know where he is.
Right. I'm sure.
So, yeah, we're, and next year is number 1 year.
It is a 1 year. Yeah.
So I would say that this is the financial reset. Like COVID was COVID, and there probably will be another pandemic, say in the next 5 years, but they won't be able to do what they did in COVID because they already did that once.
Yeah.
But it's the economic thing. It could be more devastating than COVID.
Sure.
In a lot of ways. So, but even if you don't have a lot of money or you can't buy silver now, just understanding where we are is an advantage because most people aren't watching Robert Phoenix or In Chattaria. They're completely oblivious to what's happening. To them, it'll be like a bomb dropped in one day when there's the new 1929 crash. And we will probably have several crashes, like probably one in 2026 and another one in the few years after that. But they can't connect the events and their brain damage from COVID shots. So
right,
information is power, and just kind of knowing where things are. You can see the light at the end of the tunnel. This won't last forever, but understand, I think the next 5 years it's going to be hardcore, or say 4 years, right? Because it'll be in 2026. So 4 years.
Yeah.
I'm hearing that it might be the most difficult time that people ever experience in their lifetime.
Looking at the astrology, I don't have a problem with that. I can see that. Yeah. But I also feel that there is some real potential for significant, it's like we hear, prognostications and doom, and automatically our mind just jumps to worst case scenario. And, how are we going to get through this? And how much pain are we going to suffer? how much pain our loved one's going to suffer. And I've been dosing really heavily on stories of the American frontier on this channel called Unworthy History. And this guy reads firsthand accounts and some third-hand accounts of battles, fights, skirmishes, abductions with the Indians. And there's some Revolutionary War stuff. He gets into some interesting mythological stuff with like the giant rock people of Northern California who were cannibals and lived in caves. I mean, some really, some cool shit, right? But when you listen to the stories of the American frontier and the pioneers and having to deal with the Comanches and the Apaches, I mean, we would last half a day in that world, right? Like there was severe physical, psychological hardship. When you hear these stories, some of them make your toes curl. And yet, those experiences forged a people, right? And those people forged a new land and a new territory. Like it tested their resolve. And those people had a lot more courage than we do today, by the way. They also had a lot more pride and character. Now, some of them were not perfect people. Some of them were welching on deals and stuff. And, that got into that sort of polluted the waters, and the Indians got pissed off that they didn't get their money that was promised to them. So there was that, right? But I'm bringing this up because people got through really difficult times, really difficult situations. And those times and situations pressed them to the point where they thought death would be a much better solution than the reality they were occupying. But at the end of the day, they became stronger. And I think, certainly there was a lot of tragedy, especially when your kids got murdered in front of your eyes. I just think that, it could get really difficult. And what's the litmus? The litmus is it going to kill you or make you stronger?
Well, I think it's time to find your tribe. And it's also a time when the material gets weak, the spirit gets strong, right? It's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah.
So,
and these people, by the way, had an amazing belief in God. Amazing. And the way that they talked about God, they didn't talk about God and Jesus. Like the Jesus story, when they talked about their faith, it was like kind of independent of the Jesus story. And I'm not saying that they didn't believe in Jesus, right? But they would talk about divine providence. And the way that they talked about spiritual principles were the things that got them through like that time. They could never give up the faith that they would have a day of deliverance. But they also had to be very aware of any opportunity for them to be able to escape their captors and their situation. So they weren't just sitting around praying all the time for the cavalry to come through. Like they would do that and they would pray for the safety of their children, who in many cases had been taken away by the tribes and assimilated into the tribes. But they were also praying for their own fortitude and their own presence of mind, so that when the time came, they could get out of their situation. Very interesting. I highly recommend this channel called Unworthy History on YouTube. It's one guy, it's not AI, and you will be blown away by the stories. And even the writing is, some of the writing in language is just spectacular. It's something that we've lost touch with, just in terms of being able to capture the feeling of an event and what a person was going through. So,
Well,
yeah.
well, I think just like we were talking about the cycles, just knowing that 2029, 2030, it's like a door closes and that period will be over. Most people don't know that.
Yeah.
When these crises pop up, they're totally lost. So just in knowing, having a general idea of the cycles, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel, And I think your reputation will mean a lot more than it does right now, because people, it'll be much more important to be a trustable person than it is right now, right?
I think that's totally true. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Masaki, we've covered a lot of ground here. Is there anything else that's on your mind that you want to share before we turn out the lights?
Well, we talked about that. We did the whole show in Japan.
Yeah.
It played out pretty much I thought it was going to play out.
People loved that show, by the way. They were really into it.
Basically, Takaichi, she is tightening up a lot of the rules. So the rules around the loophole of buying real estate to get residency, they upped it from like 40,000 to 200,000. So that cuts out a lot of the Chinese that were abusing that. And she's enforcing, she's being tougher on basic things, right? But they're still importing hundreds of thousands of South Asians and Indonesians. So that's the problem. You're bringing in too many foreigners of an incompatible nature, right?
Yeah.
So like I said, big business gets what big business wants. They don't care about the country. So it's following what I had.
Well, the country is a business. The country is a corporation, and we're an amalgam of corporations, and there's sub corporations that are part of the amalgam of corporations. Mm-hmm. So I think your point is well taken. At the end of the day, they don't give a fuck about the people. All they care about, like right now, they don't care about where they put these data centers. They don't care.
Right. The language she used was something like, we're going to ensure an orderly process. That doesn't mean they're gonna reduce the number of foreign workers. They're just trying to make it as orderly as possible.
Right.
You're still gonna have major problems. So
right.
That 2030 can't come soon enough, or the collapse can't come soon enough, because I think that's the only thing that'll cut the immigration flow to Japan.
I guess if you were really, really rich and they had the technology, you would just put yourself in cryogenesis for the next 4 years. And then after this period was over, you just kind of wake up, right? And whatever the world was, you wouldn't have had to go through the birth trauma of the next 3 to 4 years. And I bet there are some people who have that on their minds, by the way.
I will say, though, that even though Japan's nowhere close to Europe, but the problems are mounting with the migrant situation. We're in the cycle of earth changes. There's definitely going to be some major tsunami or earthquakes that Japan gets hit with. And they're right next to China. Even with those factors, I think Japan might be better off than America, because I was saying that this isn't going to work out well for the US dollar or America, the situation right now. I'm hearing, well, Warren Buffett moved 300 plus billion into the Japanese market, even with the possibility of the yen hyperinflating like the Turkish lira, right? I think, well, I have heard that when this process starts with a major devaluation of the dollar, the Asian markets will recover relatively quickly. And it's going to be the US and countries connected to the US that have the most difficulty with the new economic situation.
It's an overused word, but it feels to me like the Asian markets and the Asian culture in general is more agile, right? It's more agile, more adaptable, and there's less sort of built-in institutionalization.
Well,
Here in the States, I'm not sure how agile we are.
they're especially East Asia,
Yeah.
they're serious people. So the thing is, America, even Europe is basically a dead market, almost insignificant.
Well, they produce nothing. They produce even less than we do. At least we produce some food.
America, especially in the last since 2000, the 2007 2008 real subprime crisis,
Yeah,
created massive bubbles that other parts of the world didn't benefit from.
yeah.
So, like in Japan, the real estate market is just starting to go up, but that's after like 30 plus years of, I mean, there is no bubble. It's completely deflated. So
Yeah.
they don't have much to fall. But America, we're sitting on bubbles on top of bubbles. In China, like we said, it's already collapsed. But they have the productive capacity. America, we're I mean, what's Trump doing? He's trying to play a shell game and use crypto to keep the bubble going.
Right, and he wants, he's all hot and horny, hot and bothered for the data centers. I mean, he was bragging about them. Did you see his 19-minute Adderall rant the other night?
I just watched the beginning of it.
I mean, I felt like I was watching a late night infomercial.
Did he mention Rob Reiner in that? No, that was a tweet.
Yeah, he was just talking about how hot America is. We're the hottest country on the planet right now. He's talking about America like some chick at an Epstein party.
Well, I think in general our people will be okay, but the average people, it's going to be rough. And you won't see me at any protests or riots next year either. There's sure to be some around July 4th, because it's like 250 years back to
year, yeah,
1776.
Yeah, 250th year. Trump was going to have like all these World's Fair kind of events happening all next year. Of course, that's not going to happen. But he was touting that like that was part of his golden age vision, that every state was going to have like this, golden age fair, and it was very reminiscent of things just before the reset, right? So people were noticing that. All right, Masaki, I'm going to let you go.
Oh, the website.
Yep, talk about it.
Masaki .1.
I have that link in the description of the show. If you want to talk to Masaki, he's got some services that he is great at, and you can avail yourself to those services. It's right there. And the link is, like I said, it's in the description for the show. Well, thank you for coming on and doing a yeoman's job at a short notice.
I know. I thought it was Sunday. I would have even more links, but we did a good job for Friday FARcast.
Yeah, for the Friday FARcast, I think we did a fine job, and people are always they're always into what you have to bring to the table, and your well-informed perspectives on many levels. So thanks again, and I'll talk to you offline, but I'll wish you an official Merry Christmas and all that while we're here.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and thanks, Chataria.
All right, there we go. There's our friend Masaki Miyagawa. I have a little bit of news before we get out of here. I am launching my new website today. Today's the day, new moon. And as a result of my launching my website, I have a special deal for people. For a limited time, 7 days, you can get a transit report, which is going to be basically your forecast for 2026 at a deeply discounted price of $150. So normally that reading, which I still think is very reasonable, is $250. It's actually $155. I'm covering the transactional fee. But still, nonetheless, it's a great value, and it's only for 7 days. And you can even get it as a gift for someone. And the way to stay in touch with me around that has never been easier. I have landing pages that direct you to where you want to go or need to go. Once you make that purchase, you get in touch with me, or you can send that information to me and I can get in touch with somebody else. So for the next 7 days, from now until the 26th, the transit report, normally $250, is $155. So if you've wanted to get a reading or want to get a reading for somebody else, now's the time to do it. And hopefully by end of day today, we'll have that new website up. And it's to commemorate my new website and also to give you guys some love, right? Because you support the show by showing up and giving me inspiration. And I thought, I'll take $100 off that price and make it real simple and easy for people. And there you go. Okay. In the meantime, have yourselves a great Friday. We'll be back on Sunday night with Sunday Night Astro Live. And enjoy the stellium, enjoy the new moon. Sagittarius, the hope. Sagittarius is a sign that's very hopeful. The hope of the light returning, which is just right around the corner. Just remind yourself that. Take care. Bye for now.